You ever walk so deep into the woods that the air changes? Where even the birds won't sing, and it feels like the trees lean in close just to listen? Well, there's places like that. I ain't talking spooky in a campfire way. I'm talking wrong. Compass don't work right. Sounds don't carry. And folks who go too far off trail, sometimes they don't come back the same, if they come back at all. So hey, pull up a chair. The fire's burning. I want to share some stories with you tonight. Not just legends, but warnings. Things I've gathered from locals, hunters, even a ranger or two. And not a one of them tells these tales lightly. These woods, they remember. Welcome to Kentucky Melody, where every whisper has a past, and every path leads somewhere you shouldn't be. For safety and privacy, we've changed the names and removed the exact locations of these encounters. Let me start with two brothers. Grew up hunting squirrel in the deep hollers since they was knee-high to a coon dog. They knew them woods like most folks know their own kitchen. Every trail, every bend in the creek, every tree with a knot that looked like a face. But one October afternoon, something changed. They said it felt wrong the moment they stepped off the ridge trail. Not just quiet, but hollow. No chirping, no rustling, no wind. Just that dead silence that presses down on your chest, makes you start listening to your own heartbeat, just to be sure you ain't gone deaf. Then came the smell, rotten eggs, wet dog, and something else, like dirt turned over on a grave that hadn't finished settling. They stopped cold. That's when they saw it, just past the trees, partly hid behind a crooked trunk, stood something. Brother, it weren't no man. Tall, too tall, 7 feet easy, maybe more. Thin and stretched like it was made of skin wrapped over fence wire. Long arms hanging low, fingers that looked too many. No clothes, no hair, and them eyes, black, reflective, like coal glinting in the dark, even though there weren't no light. It didn't charge, didn't even flinch. It just tilted its head, real slow, like it was studying what it was looking at. Then, just like that, it was gone. Didn't run, didn't step, just blinked out of sight, like it stepped sideways into some place that don't belong to our world. One of the brothers won't speak on it to this day. The other won't even drive the road that leads near where it happened. Says the trees still feel like they're watching. So let me ask you, if something like that stood in the woods, staring you down, like it already knew your name, would you go back? This next one still gives me a cold feeling when I think about it. Came from a college girl. She told me her story face to face, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. It was fall break. Just a few friends camped out in the woods, laughing, drinking, music playing low. But around 1:30 in the morning, the fire dimmed, and the cold came in like a blanket. No breeze, no weather, just a deep, unnatural cold. Then came the quiet. Not peaceful quiet, not sleepy quiet. The kind where every sound vanishes like the forest is holding its breath. And that's when she saw it, crawling out of the trees, on all fours, but backwards, its knees bent wrong, like a spider that had snapped its legs, long arms, elbows poking out sideways, skin hanging like wet cloth, pale, loose, like it didn't quite fit whatever was underneath. No face, no hair, just moving, slow and unnatural toward the firelight. She screamed, Her friends turned just in time to see it rear back and let out a screech like metal scraping rock. Then it darted back into the woods, faster than anything has a right to move. They didn't pack, didn't grab nothing, just ran. 2 miles in the dark, barefoot, leaving every stitch of gear behind. Next morning, authorities went out, no signs of wildlife, but they found drag marks and one shredded sleeping bag that was hers. Not torn by claws, torn by fingers. Now, let me ask you, you ever seen something crawl that just plain ain't built right? Something that moves like it's wearing the wrong skin, but still knows exactly where you're standing? This one came from a ranger I trust. He's retired now, but he spent decades in the woods. He don't scare easy, but this story made him go quiet. It started with a missing hiker. No signal, no GPS. Last anyone heard was a picture from a trailhead, then nothing. 3 days of searching, not a single track. On the 4th day, they found him, curled up inside a hollowed tree, barefoot, mud-caked, eyes wide open but seeing nothing, mumbling the same thing over and over. The eyes never blinked. The man with no skin. They got him to a hospital, but for days he just sat there, rocking, staring. Then, late one night, he started talking. Said he'd been watched the whole time, eyes in the dark, always just out of sight, never blinking. He followed a woman's voice calling his name. Thought it was help. But what stepped out of them trees wasn't a woman. It was a shape. Long, crooked, no eyes, no nose, just a wide, gaping mouth, still and open like it was drinking in the air. He ran. Says he don't even remember finding that tree he hid in. Just knew it was the only place left to crawl into. The ranger, he never went back either. So I gotta ask, you believe the forest can show you things, just to break you? Now this one, it still creeps up on me when the wind starts whistling just right. Travis, a solo camper, took a few days off grid one October. Cold nights, clear skies, perfect peace. He was sitting by the fire when he heard it, a whistle, slow, melodic, not a bird, not a man, just wrong. He whistled the tune back, then silence, then it came again. Closer this time, same notes, same rhythm, like something was copying him. That was enough. He packed his gear half-fast and hit the gravel road. Didn't look back, didn't need to. His dash cam caught something pale following him from the trees. Human-shaped, but wrong. He never tells what it looked like, just shakes his head and says, "It knew the tune before I did." So, tell me, if the woods ever whistled back, would you answer, or would you run before it learned the next verse? Last one for tonight. Couple of backpackers camped off trail. Real remote, late spring, but the night carried a strange chill. Round 3 in the morning, the fog rolled in thick. One of them woke up to breathing, just outside the tent. Slow, deep, wet. At first, he thought it was a bear, but then something leaned against the nylon. Tall, thin, tilting its head back and forth, like it was trying to see inside. Didn't move, didn't grunt, just breathed, long and slow. Then it was gone. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. In the morning, they found footprints, 3 wide toes, pressed deep into the earth, leading up to the tent and disappearing into the fog. So let me ask you, you ever been zipped up in a tent and felt something lean in, like all that stood between you and it was a whisper of fabric and a prayer? So, that's 5 stories from deep in the wild. 5 folks who saw something they don't want to talk about and can't forget. Now I gotta ask, which story chilled you the most? You reckon the woods remember where folks shouldn't tread? Or have you ever heard a whistle in the trees? We'll be back Saturday night with 5 more tales. Some with too many eyes, and some with none at all. So come on back to Kentucky Melody, where the fire's warm, but the woods are cold, and something is always watching.